The quiet hum of the Aegis Station was the only sound in the maintenance sector. It was a deep, vibrating noise that never stopped. For most of the alien species on the station, this noise was annoying. They preferred silence or soft music. But for Leo, the noise was like a lullaby. It meant the station was alive. Leo was a human. He was not a soldier or a diplomat. He was just a worker. He wore a gray jumpsuit with the name Leo stitched on the chest. His hands were rough and covered in grease. Right now, he was lying on his back under a large panel of the main power core. His face was illuminated only by the small light attached to his helmet. He was holding a heavy wrench. Above him, a mess of colorful wires and tubes filled the space. The aliens called this technology elegant. Leo called it a mess. It was too complicated. It had too many moving parts. But it was his job to fix it when it broke. Just a little turn, Leo whispered to himself. He tightened the bolt on a cooling pipe. The pipe was leaking a blue fluid. The fluid was toxic to most species, but to humans, it just smelled like rotten fruit. Leo wiped the sweat from his forehead. The air conditioning in this sector was broken again. It was always too hot or too cold. The aliens liked the temperature to be exactly perfect. Humans were different. They could survive in almost anything. Suddenly, the station shook. It was not a small shake. It was a violent tremor that rattled the tools in Leo's belt. The humming noise of the station changed pitch. It went from a low hum to a high-pitched scream. Leo rolled out from under the panel just as a shower of sparks rained down. He hit the metal floor hard. Alarms began to blare. Red lights flashed in the hallway, turning the gray walls into a bloody color. "Warning," a computer voice said over the intercom. "Critical failure in Sector 4. Containment breach imminent." Leo stood up. He looked around. He was alone. The other workers had run away as soon as the alarm started. He could hear their footsteps echoing in the distance. But Leo did not run. He looked at the large power core in front of him. It was glowing a dangerous orange color. "Great," Leo said. "Just great." He knew he had to do something. If the core exploded, the whole station would be destroyed. He ran to the control panel on the wall. He typed in a command to shut down the reactor. The screen flashed red. "Access denied." The computer said. Leo typed faster. He tried his override code. It did not work. "Come on," he said, hitting the side of the screen with his hand. "Work." The screen flickered and then went dead. The control panel was useless. Leo looked back at the core. The orange glow was getting brighter. The heat was intense. He could feel his skin drying out from the warmth. Most aliens would have passed out by now. The heat was too much for their delicate bodies. But Leo gritted his teeth. He was used to heat. He had worked in deserts and in boiler rooms back on Earth. He looked for a manual lever. He saw it on the far side of the room, behind a cloud of steam. It was the emergency shutdown. It would require a lot of strength to pull. The mechanism was old and rusty. Leo took a deep breath of the hot air. He covered his mouth with his sleeve and ran into the steam. The heat was like a wall. It pushed against him. He felt his clothes singeing. He reached the lever. It was a large metal wheel. He grabbed it with both hands. He pulled. It did not move. "Move," he grunted. He planted his feet on the slippery metal floor. He leaned back, using all the weight of his body. His muscles strained. Veins popped out on his neck. The metal wheel groaned. Slowly, very slowly, it began to turn. Just as the wheel moved, the doors to the maintenance sector burst open. Leo did not stop. He kept turning the wheel. A group of tall, silver-skinned aliens marched into the room. They were the Velari. They wore long robes and held strange, glowing weapons. They were the police force of the galaxy. They stopped when they saw Leo. He was covered in soot and sweat. He was struggling with the heavy wheel. Behind him, the power core was calming down. The orange light was fading back to blue. The leader of the Volari stepped forward. His name was Kale. He had a long, thin face and eyes that were completely black. He looked at the control panel with the broken screen. Then he looked at Leo, who was still panting from the effort. "Stop," Kale said. His voice was cold and flat. Leo let go of the wheel. He leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. The core was safe. The explosion was stopped. "I fixed it," Leo said, wiping his face. "The override failed. I had to do it manually." Kale did not look impressed. He pointed a long finger at a pipe near Leo's feet. It was broken. Blue fluid was leaking onto the floor. The fluid was mixing with the water from the steam. "Did you break that pipe while forcing the wheel?" Kale asked. Leo looked down. "I don't know. Maybe." The shaking was intense. "I had to stop the explosion." Kale nodded to two other guards. "Secure him." "What?" Leo asked, standing up straight. "I just saved the station." The core was about to blow up. The guards stepped forward. They grabbed Leo's arms. Their grip was like iron. They were much stronger than they looked. "You are the only one here," Kale said. "The logs show that a human was at this console 3 minutes ago. The explosion started shortly after. Your species is known for your chaotic nature. You are clumsy and destructive." "That's not true," Leo said, trying to pull away. "I was fixing a leak." The explosion was an accident in the system. Or it was a sabotage. But it wasn't me. The guards dragged Leo toward the door. He did not fight hard. He knew it was useless. There were 5 of them, and they had weapons. He looked back at the power core. It was humming quietly now. It was stable. At least he had done that part right. They took him out of the maintenance sector and into the main hallway. The station was in chaos. Aliens of all shapes and sizes were running in panic. There were insectoids, reptilians, and energy beings. When they saw Leo being dragged away in handcuffs, some of them hissed. Others shouted insults. "Human trash." One alien yelled, "Destroy him before he kills us all." Another shouted. Leo kept his head up. He did not look at them. He knew how they felt. Most of the galaxy hated humans. They said humans were too violent. They said humans were unpredictable. They said humans were pests. They brought him to a lift. The lift went up to the top level of the station. This was where the diplomats and judges lived. It was clean and white. There was no grease here. Everything smelled like flowers and expensive perfume. The guards dragged him down a long white corridor. At the end of the hall was a large door made of glass. They went inside. It was a courtroom. It was a big circle with seats rising up on all sides. In the center was a single chair with chains on it. They threw Leo into the chair. They locked the chains around his wrists and ankles. The metal was cold. He looked around the room. The seats were filling up quickly. Important aliens from all over the sector were coming to watch. They wanted to see justice done. Kale walked up to a podium in the center. He looked down at Leo. "Leo the human," Kale said to the room. "You are accused of terrorism and attempted destruction of a neutral station. How do you plead?" "I am not guilty," Leo said clearly. His voice echoed in the quiet room. "I was trying to save the station." Murmurs went through the crowd. They did not believe him. Kale smiled. It was a small, thin smile that did not reach his eyes. "Lies," Kale said. "We have the data. We know you're kind." Leo sat back in the chair. He looked at the high ceiling. He thought about Earth. He thought about the blue sky and the green grass. He wondered if he would ever see it again. He was not afraid of dying, but he was afraid of dying for something he did not do. He looked at his hands. They were still shaking from the effort of turning the wheel. They were the hands of a worker. Hands that built things and fixed things. But to these aliens, they were the hands of a monster. The trial was starting, and Leo knew it was not going to be fair. The room was very cold. It was a different kind of cold than the maintenance sector. This cold was not from the air conditioning. It came from the eyes of the aliens sitting in the high seats. They looked down at Leo like he was a small bug that needed to be crushed. Leo sat in the chair with the chains on his wrists. He did not look down. He looked straight ahead. Kale, the Valari prosecutor, walked around the small podium. He moved with smooth, liquid grace. His silver robes made no sound when he walked. He held a small data pad in his long, thin fingers. He looked at the crowd of aliens and then back at Leo. "We are here today because of a tragedy," Kale said. His voice was loud and clear. It bounced off the white walls. A tragedy that could have killed thousands of innocent beings. But we are also lucky. The sensors detected the energy spike before it was too late. He pointed a finger at Leo, and we caught the one responsible. A loud sound came from the crowd. It was a mix of hissing and clicking. It was the sound of agreement. The aliens wanted someone to blame. They were scared, and anger was easier than fear. "I object," a strong voice said from the back of the room. Everyone turned to look. The heavy doors at the back were open. A woman stood there. She was human. Her name was Maya. She wore a blue suit that looked clean and professional. Her hair was tied back in a neat bun. She walked down the center aisle with her head high. She did not look scared at all. The guards at the door stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "This is a closed session for high species," one guard said. Maya looked at the guard. She was shorter than him, but she did not back down. "I am the legal representative for the defendant," she said firmly. "Galactic Law 454 states that any accused being has the right to counsel. Step aside." The guard looked at Kale. Kale nodded slightly. The guard moved out of the way. Maya walked to the front of the room. She stood next to Leo, but she did not look at him. She looked at Kale. "This is a farce," Maya said to the court. "You have arrested a maintenance worker for a complex power failure. That is ridiculous." Kale smiled his cold smile. "Welcome, counselor. I am glad you are here to witness your client's confession." "Confession?" Maya asked. "He hasn't confessed anything. He does not need to speak," Kale said. He raised the data pad. A hologram appeared in the air above the podium. It showed a video of the maintenance room. It showed Leo running toward the large wheel. It showed him pulling the wheel with great force. It showed the sparks flying. The video shows the human forcing the manual override. This action caused a feedback loop in the core. If the core had not been shielded, it would have exploded. Maya watched the video. She crossed her arms. "You are showing the end of the event," she said. "What happened before that? Where is the footage of the 10 minutes before?" Kale tapped the pad. The hologram changed. It was just static. Unfortunately, the sensors in that sector were damaged. "By the human," he added quickly. "How convenient," Maya said. She turned to the judges. "Ladies and gentlemen of the council, my client was in that sector because he was assigned to fix a coolant leak. He is a maintenance worker. Fixing things is his job. If he did not touch that wheel, the station would be dust right now. He stopped the explosion." Kale laughed. It was a sharp, mocking sound. "He stopped it? He caused it. Humans are chaotic. You cannot deny the biology of your species. Your brains are small. You act before you think. You are violent. He probably got angry at the machine and hit it." "Objection!" Maya shouted. That is racist speculation. There is no proof. I do not need proof, Kale said, turning to the crowd. I only need history. Remember the colony on Mars 7? Who started the riot? Humans. Remember the mining accident on the asteroid belt? Who ignored the safety protocols? Humans. It is in their blood. The crowd began to murmur again. They nodded their heads. They remembered the news stories. They did not like humans. Humans were the newcomers to the galaxy. They were loud, messy, and confusing to the older races. Leo sat quietly in his chair. He listened to them talk about his species like they were a disease. He wanted to yell, to tell them that they were wrong, but he knew it would not help. Maya was doing a good job. She was smart and fast. Call your first witness, Kale said. Maya stood up straight. I call the station's AI to the stand. A low hum filled the room. A blue light projected from the ceiling. It formed the shape of a face. It was the station's computer. State your analysis of the power core failure, Maya asked the AI. The energy signature was unstable, the I said in a robotic voice. The fluctuation originated from the secondary conduit. Was there a foreign object detected? Maya asked. Negative, the I said. Maya looked pleased. You see, no foreign object. My client was just doing his job. Kale stepped forward. Let me ask the computer a question. He looked at the blue face. AI, was the only biological life form in the sector at the time of the failure a human? Affirmative, the AI said. And did that human touch the manual override? Kale asked. Affirmative. Kale spread his hands. There you have it. He was alone. He touched the machine. The machine failed. It is simple logic. Maya gritted her teeth. Being alone does not make you guilty. But the crowd did not agree. To them, logic was everything. If A plus B equals C, then it must be true. They did not understand intuition or sacrifice. They only understood data. The trial went on for hours. Kale brought in alien witnesses who had never met Leo. They talked about how scary humans looked. They talked about human teeth and human nails. They said humans were predators. It made no sense to the case, but the crowd loved it. They gasped when a witness described how a human could eat meat. Finally, Kale finished. I have no more questions, he said. The facts are clear. The human is guilty. I ask for the maximum penalty. Death by vacuum. The room went silent. It was a terrible sentence. They would throw Leo out of the airlock into space without a suit. It was a slow and painful death. Maya stood up. She walked to the center of the room. She looked at the judges. You cannot kill him, she said. You have no real evidence. You only have fear. Leo is a good man. He works hard. He helps people. You are judging him just because he is human. She looked around the room. We may be different from you. We may be louder. We may like to fight. But we also like to fix things. Leo saved this station. If you kill him, you are killing the only person who was brave enough to run into the fire. There was a moment of silence. But then Kale laughed again. Brave or stupid? There is a difference. The head judge, a large creature with 3 eyes, stood up. We have heard enough, the judge said. The council will vote. One by one, the aliens pressed buttons on their consoles. Red lights and green lights lit up on the wall. It was not even close. Almost all the lights were red. The verdict is guilty, the judge announced. The human Leo will be executed immediately. Leo felt a cold weight in his stomach. It was over. He looked at Maya. She looked angry, but also sad. She had failed. The guards came forward to unlock the chains. They pulled Leo out of the chair. He stumbled but caught his balance. He did not fight them. There was no point. They dragged him toward the door. The crowd stood up. They were cheering. They wanted to see him die. It was a show for them. As they reached the hallway, Maya ran in front of them. She held up a small device. It was a hacking tool. She pointed it at the electronic lock on the far door. "Stop!" A guard yelled, raising his weapon. "Access code 99 Alpha Zeta." Maya shouted. It was a trick. There was no such code. But as she shouted it, she pressed a button on her device. It sent a strong electrical pulse through the door's lock. The spark was bright. The door smoked and jammed shut. The guards stopped. They were confused. Maya turned to Leo. Her eyes were wide. "Leo, the relic," she said quickly. "Demand the right of the ancient." "What?" Leo asked. He was confused. "The relic in the main hall. The old machine. By the old laws, you can ask for its judgment. Do it now." Kale walked out of the courtroom. He looked furious. "Arrest her too," he ordered. But Leo remembered. He had heard stories about the relic. It was a machine from a time before the Galactic Council. It was supposed to be fair. "I invoke the right of the ancient," Leo yelled. His voice was loud and deep. It silenced the guards. "I demand judgment from the old one." The guards looked at Kale. Kale looked nervous. "That is a myth," he said. "The machine is junk. It hasn't worked in 1,000 years. The law says the request must be acknowledged," Maya said. She held up her datapad with the old law written on it. "Even if the machine is broken." A loud bell rang throughout the station. It was a sound that had not been heard for centuries. The station's AI had recognized the command. The execution stopped. The guards stepped back. They looked at each other. They did not know what to do. Slowly, the lights in the hallway began to flicker. They changed from white to a soft golden color. A deep rumbling sound came from the center of the station. It felt like the heartbeat of a giant. The relic was waking up. The deep rumbling sound was not just a noise. It was a feeling that vibrated in the chest of every living being on the station. The guards let go of Leo's arms and stepped back. They looked at the ceiling with fear in their large eyes. Even Kale, the proud prosecutor, looked nervous. He smoothed his silver robes, but his hands were shaking slightly. The golden light grew brighter. It came from the center of the station, flowing through the corridors like liquid metal. The air smelled of ozone and ancient dust. Maya stood next to Leo. She looked tired, but she had a small smile on her face. "What is happening?" Leo asked her. He had never felt anything like this. The pressure in the air was heavy. "The station is obeying the old code," Maya whispered. The AI recognized the command. "It is taking us to the Hall of the Ancients." The floor under their feet moved. The hallway itself was transforming. The walls shifted and turned. The station was rearranging its structure to create a path. They were being pulled toward the center, toward the relic. "Move," the head guard shouted, trying to take control of the situation. "Take the prisoner to the airlock. We can still finish this before that hunk of junk wakes up." Two guards grabbed Leo again. They pulled him down the shifting corridor. Maya followed close behind. The guards were afraid, but they were more afraid of disobeying orders. They marched Leo through the golden light until they reached a massive door. The door was made of a black stone that did not look like it came from this planet. It was covered in strange carvings that glowed softly. This was the entrance to the central chamber. "In," Kale said. "Let us get this over with." The guards pushed Leo into the room. It was a huge circular space. In the very middle stood the relic. It was a monolith, a tall black pillar that reached up to the high ceiling. It floated a few inches above the floor. It was simple, dark, and terrifying. Around the relic were hundreds of seats, all floating in the air. The members of the Galactic Council were flooding into the room. They had followed the light. They wanted to see what would happen. "TH." I whispered to each other in their own languages. The mood in the room was tense. Kale walked to the center of the room, near the floating monolith. He turned to face the crowd. He pointed at Leo. "Do not be afraid," Kale said, his voice echoing in the large chamber. "This is just a glitch. The human is trying to trick us with superstition. The Relic is an old machine. It has no power. We will vote again, and we will end this." Leo looked at the black pillar. He did not feel any power coming from it yet. It looked dead. He looked at Maya. She gave him a nod. She believed in this. He had to trust her. "I am not afraid," Leo said loudly. His voice was not as fancy as Kale's, but it was strong. "I am not afraid of the truth." The crowd laughed. They laughed at the dirty human in the gray jumpsuit standing next to the high and mighty Kale. Silence. A voice boomed. It did not come from Kale. It did not come from the crowd. It came from the pillar. A crack appeared on the smooth surface of the black stone. A beam of pure white light shot out from the crack. It hit the ceiling and scattered, illuminating the whole room. The laughter stopped instantly. The aliens shrank back in their seats. The air temperature dropped, freezing cold. The light from the pillar began to spin. It formed a shape. It was a face, but not a face like a human or an alien. It was just light and geometry. It had no eyes, but Leo felt like it was looking right into his soul. "Who disturbs the sleep of the judge?" The voice asked. It sounded like many voices speaking at once. Kale stepped forward. He bowed low. "Grade 1, I am Kale, High Inquisitor. We have a criminal here. A human. He tried to destroy the station. We found him guilty. We were just carrying out the sentence when this mistake happened." The face of light turned toward Kale. "You speak of guilt," the voice said, "but you speak with haste." The old law was invoked. The right of the ancient was called. "I am awake, and I will judge." The crowd gasped. The legends were true. The machine could speak. "Human," the voice said. "Step forward." The guards pushed Leo. He stumbled a few steps until he was standing right in front of the beam of light. He looked up. The light was blinding, but he did not close his eyes. "I am Leo," he said. "You stand accused of terrorism," the voice said, "of attempting to destroy this station. What say you?" "I didn't do it," Leo said simply. "I was trying to fix it. The core was going to explode. I stopped it." "Lies," Kale shouted from the side. "He's lying. Look at the data logs. He was the only one there. Humans are destroyers. They know nothing of creation." The Relic's face swirled faster. "Data is just numbers," the voice said. "It does not show intent. It does not show the heart. I will see the truth." The beam of light widened. It shot out and enveloped Leo. He felt a strange sensation. It was not painful, but it felt like his skin was buzzing. He felt a tickle in his brain. It was scanning him, reading his thoughts, reading his memories. Leo saw flashes of his life in his mind. He saw his childhood on Earth. He saw his first job fixing a car. He saw the day he arrived at the station. He saw the explosion. He felt the fear he felt when the alarm rang. He felt the determination to pull the lever. He felt the heat of the fire. Then, the light pulled away from Leo. It moved to the center of the room. It began to project an image into the air. It was a hologram, much clearer than the one Kale had shown. It was the maintenance room. But this footage was different. It showed what happened before Leo arrived. The hologram showed a small vent opening in the wall. A tiny drone, no bigger than a bird, flew out. It was not a human drone. It had the mark of the Valari military on its wing. It flew to the main power core. It attached a small device to the cooling pipe. Then it flew back into the vent and disappeared. A few seconds later, the pipe began to leak. Then the core shook. Then Leo ran into the room. The room was dead silent. The aliens watched the hologram with their mouths open. They saw the truth. The explosion was not an accident. It was not caused by Leo. It was a sabotage. And the drone belonged to the Valari. Kale's face turned pale. His silver skin looked gray. This is a trick, he stammered. The human hacked the projector. He faked this video. I cannot be hacked, the Relic said. Its voice was thunder now. I am the source of all truth on this station. This recording comes from the memory of the building itself. The stones remember. The metal remembers. The Relic turned its attention back to Leo. The light scanned him again, deeper this time. I have seen your actions, Leo, the human, the voice said. When the explosion started, you did not run. You stayed. You saw the danger. You knew you might die. But you stayed to save the others. The light changed color. It turned from white to a soft, warm blue. You used your body to shield the support strut, the voice said to the crowd. Look, another image appeared. It showed Leo under the panel. He was holding the heavy wrench. When the explosion happened, a piece of the ceiling fell. Leo threw his arm up. He caught the heavy metal debris. His muscles strained. His bone compressed. But he held it up. If he had not, the strut would have snapped, and the station would have broken in half. His bone density is high, the voice said. His muscle fibers are dense. He absorbed a shock that would have killed a Valari or a Xylorian. He saved this station not with his technology, but with his biology. He sacrificed his own body to protect the structure. Leo looked at his arm. It was bruised and sore, but he hadn't realized how important that small action was. He just did what he had to do. The aliens in the crowd looked at Leo differently now. They did not see a dirty worker anymore. They saw a being of incredible strength and resilience. He is the champion of justice, the Relic declared. The words hung in the air. Champion of justice. It was a title from the ancient times, a title given only to those who displayed pure bravery and selflessness. Kale was shaking with anger and fear. No, he screamed. He is a monster. Kill him. But the Relic was not finished. The blue light turned into a sharp, piercing red. It aimed straight at Kale. You accused the innocent to hide your own guilt, the Relic said. You tried to murder a hero for political gain. You are the true criminal. The floor beneath Kale opened up. Mechanical arms made of light grabbed him. He screamed as he was lifted into the air. Wait, Kale cried. I am a High Inquisitor. You cannot judge me. I judge all, the Relic said. Kale struggled, but it was useless. The mechanical arms locked handcuffs onto his wrists. They were not normal handcuffs. They glowed with the same golden light as the pillar. They were the chains of the old law. They could not be broken. The other Valari guards in the room did not move. They lowered their weapons. They knew better than to fight the ancient machine. Maya let out a long breath she had been holding. She looked at Leo and winked. Leo stood in the blue light. He felt tired. The adrenaline was fading away, but he also felt a strange warmth in his chest. The Relic had believed him. The Relic had seen the truth. It was a good feeling. The Relic spoke one last time to the crowd. The human is innocent. The human is the champion. Let those who oppose him fear his wrath, for he now holds the authority of the ancients. The light in the room faded slowly, returning to normal levels. The rumbling stopped, but the black pillar still glowed with a soft pulse. It was watching. Leo looked at his hands. They were dirty and greasy. But now, they meant something more. He was just a mechanic from Earth, but today, he had become a legend. He looked at Kale, hanging in the air, trapped by the light. Leo did not smile. He did not gloat. He just nodded once. It was done. The truth was out. The red light from the relic pulsed like a heartbeat. It held Kale suspended in midair. The High Inquisitor was no longer proud or arrogant. He kicked his legs and twisted his body, but the invisible grip was too strong. The golden handcuffs on his wrists glowed brighter every time he struggled. The room was completely silent. The hundreds of aliens in the floating seats watched with their mouths open. They were terrified. No one had ever seen the relic act like this. It was a machine of history, a statue they walked past on their way to lunch. But now, it was alive, and it was angry. "Please," Kale begged. His voice was high and shaky. "I am a leader of my people. You cannot do this to me." The face made of light turned toward him. "Leadership requires responsibility," the relic boomed. "You plotted to destroy this station. You planted the drone. You framed an innocent being to start a war." The relic projected the hologram again. This time, it was bigger. It showed Kale in a secret room, programming the small drone. It showed him laughing as he set the timer. It showed him giving the order to arrest Leo before the explosion even happened. The evidence was undeniable. It was played on a loop for everyone to see. The aliens in the crowd gasped. Some covered their eyes. Others hissed at Kale. They realized they had been lied to. They had almost killed a good man because of Kale's hatred. "He is a traitor," a large alien with 4 arms shouted from the back. "Justice," cried another. The relic did not stop there. It turned its attention back to Leo. The warm blue light returned, covering Leo again. It did not feel scary this time. It felt like a warm blanket. "I have scanned the human's biology," the relic said to the crowd. "I have compared it to the galactic database. I understand now why you fear him." The light showed a diagram of a human body next to a diagram of a Valari body. "Look at his bones," the voice commanded. "They are not brittle like yours. They contain a mineral dense HFY that allows them to withstand immense pressure." The image changed to show the moment Leo caught the falling debris. It zoomed in on his arm. When the ceiling fell, he lifted 10 times his own body weight. A Valari would have been crushed. A Xylorian would have shattered. But the human? He just bruised. The aliens whispered among themselves. They looked at Leo with new respect. They saw his stocky build and his rough hands not as ugly, but as tools of power. And his mind, the relic continued. "You call him chaotic. I call it adaptable." When the computer failed, he did not freeze. He did not wait for orders. He used a wrench. He used his hands. He solved a problem that your supercomputers could not solve. Maya stood tall next to Leo. She felt a surge of pride. She had always known humans were tough, but it was amazing to hear an ancient god machine say it. "This human is not a criminal," the relic declared. "He is a survivor. He acted with honor. He protected the weak. He saved the station at great risk to his own life. This is the definition of a champion." The relic shot a beam of light into Leo's chest. Leo flinched, thinking it might hurt, but it felt like a rush of energy. It made him feel stronger than he ever had before. A symbol appeared on the back of his right hand. It was a golden circle with a star in the middle. It burned for a second and then faded into his skin. "I bestow upon you the sigil of the champion," the relic said. "With this mark, you have authority over all security systems on this station. You cannot be cuffed. You cannot be jailed. Your word is law." Kale screamed. "No, this is madness. He's a primitive savage. Kill him now." The guards looked at each other. They looked at their weapons, then at Leo, then at the relic. Slowly, one by one, they lowered their guns. They were not going to fight the relic. "You have been judged, Kale," the relic said. Thought the invisible hands holding Kale flipped him over. A panel in the floor opened, revealing a dark drop. "No." "Wait," Kale yelled. "Guards," the relic said. "Take him to the deepest cell. Seal the door. He will face the council for his crimes." The guards rushed forward. They grabbed Kale, who was now sobbing. They dragged him away. He did not look like a powerful leader anymore. He looked small and pathetic. The crowd watched him go with cold eyes. The room began to change. The golden light faded back to normal. The floating seats lowered to the floor. The heavy rumbling stopped. The face in the light dissolved back into the black pillar. The relic went back to sleep, but it still hummed softly. Leo stood there for a moment. He looked at his hand. The golden mark was shining faintly. He looked at Maya. "We did it," she said, her voice shaking a little. "We actually did it." Leo took a deep breath. He felt tired. His arm hurt where the debris had hit it. His body was sore from the heat and the stress. But he felt lighter. The weight of the accusation was gone. "I need a coffee," Leo said. "A really big one." Maya laughed. It was a happy sound in the quiet room. "I think you deserve more than coffee, Leo. You just saved the entire sector." The aliens in the room started to move. They did not run away this time. They walked toward Leo. They were hesitant. They were still a little scared of him. But they wanted to see him. An old alien with a long neck stepped forward. He bowed his head low. "I apologize," the alien said. "I judged you based on your species. I was wrong. You have my thanks." Another alien, a small creature with fur, stepped up. "I was scared of you before," the creature squeaked. "But now I see you are strong. You are a good protector." Leo did not know what to say. He was just a mechanic. He wasn't used to aliens bowing to him. He scratched the back of his neck, feeling awkward. "It's okay," Leo said. "I just did my job. I didn't want to die. And I didn't want you guys to die either." This simple answer made them respect him even more. He was not boasting. He was being honest. "Excuse me," a voice came over the intercom. It was the station's AI. "Champion Leo, the cooling system in Sector 4 is still leaking. It requires attention." Leo looked at the ceiling. He smiled. "See? The work never ends." He started to walk out of the grand chamber. Maya walked with him. The crowd parted to let them pass. They moved like the sea parting for a ship. As Leo walked, he realized something. He was walking out of a courtroom as a free man, but he was also walking out as something else. He was not just Leo, the maintenance worker, anymore. He was the champion. The golden mark on his hand felt warm. It was a reminder that he was not alone. The ancient technology of the station was on his side. They reached the hallway. The doors to the airlock, where he was almost killed, were closed. Leo looked at them for a second. "Are you okay?" Maya asked him. Leo nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine. It's just a lot to take in." "You were amazing in there," Maya said. "When you stood up to Kale, and when you spoke to the relic, you were brave." "I was terrified," Leo admitted. "My hands were shaking." "Mine too," Maya said. "But that doesn't matter. You won." They walked down the corridor toward the maintenance sector. The station was quiet again. The alarms were off. The lights were back to normal. But everything felt different. The other workers they passed stopped and stared. They had heard the news. They knew what happened. A tall, thin alien named Jax, who worked in the cafeteria, stopped Leo. Jax usually ignored Leo or gave him dirty looks. "Hey," Jax said. He looked nervous. I heard what you did. With the core. That was pretty cool. Leo smiled. Thanks, Jax. Jax hesitated. If you want some extra food later, come to the kitchen. I have some fresh fruit. It's on the house. Thanks, Leo said again. I might take you up on that. They kept walking. Leo felt a strange feeling in his chest. It wasn't just pride. It was belonging. For the first time since he arrived at the station, he didn't feel like an outsider. He didn't feel like a second-class citizen. He felt like he belonged here. They arrived at the maintenance sector. The blue fluid was still on the floor. The tools were still scattered around. It was a mess. But it was his mess. Well, Leo said, picking up his wrench. Back to work. You don't have to fix this right now, Maya said. You are the champion. You can order someone else to do it. Leo looked at the wrench. He liked the way it felt in his hand. He liked fixing things. That was who he was. I know, Leo said. But if I don't fix it, who will? The aliens are too scared to touch it now. Maya smiled. You really are one of a kind, Leo. Leo walked over to the leaking pipe. He tightened the bolt. The leak stopped instantly. He wiped his hands on a rag. The golden mark on his hand flashed in the light. He looked around the station. He knew that things would be different from now on. The aliens would treat him with respect. Maybe they would treat other humans with respect too. He had changed something today. Not just the power core, but the future. He put his wrench back in his belt. He stood up straight and stretched his back. It had been a long day, but he was ready for whatever came next. He was the champion of justice, and he had a station to run. The days that followed the trial were very different for Leo. The station did not look the same, and the people on it did not act the same. Before, Leo was invisible. He would walk down the hallway, and the aliens would look through him as if he were made of glass. Now, when he walked, the hallway cleared that no one wanted to get in his way. They would press themselves against the wall and bow their heads slightly as he passed. It was not just because they were afraid of him, although some were. It was because of the mark on his hand. The golden sigil of the champion glowed softly whenever he used his strength. It was a constant reminder of what the Relic had said that Leo was still a maintenance worker, at least in his own mind. He put on his gray jumpsuit every morning. He picked up his tool belt. He went to the broken air conditioners and the leaking pipes. But now, when he fixed things, people watched. One morning, Leo was in the mess hall. He was eating a breakfast of synthetic eggs and toast. He sat at a table by himself. Usually, the aliens sat far away from him. They said humans smell bad, or they chewed too loudly. But today, a group of Zalorians sat at the table next to him. Zalorians were tall, thin insect-like creatures. They were usually very proud. Is the food acceptable, champion? One of them asked. Its voice was a series of clicks. Leo looked up. He swallowed his food. It's fine. The eggs are a little rubbery today. The Zylorian clicked nervously. I will inform the kitchen staff immediately. They must provide better food for the hero of the station. No, don't do that, Leo said quickly. It's fine. Really. I don't need special treatment. The Zylorian bowed its head. As you wish. Leo sighed and finished his meal. He missed being ignored. Being famous was tiring. Every small thing he did was now important. If he dropped a wrench, people thought it was a statement. If he yawned, people thought he was tired from his battle. He left the mess hall and headed to the central control room. He had a meeting with the station commander. The commander was a Juraxian, a big rock-skinned alien named Commander Vorn. Before the trial, Vorn had signed the work orders without ever looking at Leo. Now, Vorn wanted to see him personally. Leo walked into the control room. It was busy, with aliens typing on consoles and talking into headsets. When Leo entered, the room went quiet. Everyone stopped working to look at him. Commander Vorn stood up from his chair. He walked over to Leo. He was huge, nearly 7 feet tall. But he looked at Leo with respect. "Leo," Vorn said. His voice was like gravel grinding together. "Thank you for coming.